Mohamedou Ould Slahi, Guantanamo Diary, Restored Edition. Venture into the gripping and harrowing true story of Guantanamo Bay detainee Mohamedou Ould Slahi in the Guantanamo Diary, Restored Edition. Discover how Slahi, a Mauritanian man with no formal charges made against him, winds up in one of the world's most infamous detention centers, and gain insights into the shocking torture methods used by interrogators. The book outlines Slahi's arrest in connection to the Millennium Plot, his trial of confessions under duress, and his ongoing battle for release from unjust incarceration. Experience the human face of one of the darkest chapters in modern history as you explore the challenges detainees face in their fight for freedom.
From Mauritania to Guantanamo. Born in Mauritania in 1970, Mohamedou Ould Slahi grew up as the family's main provider. He received a scholarship to study in Germany and joined Al-Qaeda, which was then supported by Western nations. After leaving the organization, he moved to Canada and encountered a man involved in a terrorist plot. This connection eventually led to his unjust detention in Guantanamo Bay. At the heart of the story is a young man named Mohamedou Ould Slahi, or MOS, who found himself imprisoned in the notorious Guantanamo Bay Detention Center. Born in Mauritania in 1970, MOS was the ninth of 12 siblings in a family of camel traders. After their father passed away, MOS shouldered the burdensome responsibility of providing for his family. In pursuit of better opportunities, MOS left for Germany in 1988, winning a scholarship to study electrical engineering at the University of Duisburg. In 1991, he joined the fight against communism in Afghanistan and pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda, an organization that was ironically backed by the US and other Western nations at the time. As communism fell and the Afghan Mujahideen turned their weapons on each other, MOS severed ties with Al-Qaeda and resumed his life in Germany. He completed his degree and settled down with his wife. However, with his German visa nearing expiration, he successfully applied for Canadian residency, ultimately moving to Montreal in 1999. It was in Canada that fate entwined MOS with Ahmed Ressam, an Algerian immigrant connected with Al-Qaeda. Ressam had attended the same mosque as MOS in Montreal before his arrest on December 14, 1999. Known as the Millennium Plot, Ressam's plan to bomb Los Angeles International Airport unraveled following his capture. As authorities intensified their investigations, they interrogated the Montreal immigrant community, focusing their attention on MOS. Little did he know that this connection would lead to years of harrowing experiences in the infamous Guantanamo Bay Detention Center. A chilling interrogation ordeal. In January 2000, after being away from his homeland for 12 years, the author set off on a journey to visit his family in Mauritania. Upon arrival in Dakar, Senegal, he was intercepted by agents, handcuffed and taken into custody along with his brothers and their friends. They faced questioning by both Senegalese and American investigators about a man named Ressam and the Millennium Plot. The author denied any knowledge and, after being transferred to U.S. officials, was subjected to further interrogation in Mauritania. Sleep-deprived and malnourished, he lost a part of himself. The Canadian government provided transcripts of his phone calls which fueled more questioning about the supposed code words tea and sugar. The author maintained that they were just normal conversation topics. Eventually, he was released and continued to his family, unaware that his tribulations were far from over. Relentless Interrogations. The author faced continuous scrutiny from U.S. interrogators as he was repeatedly questioned about coded meanings during conversations, his activities, and affiliations. Despite the relentless attempts to coerce a confession, he remained steadfast in proclaiming his innocence. After being released, he was once again summoned by Mauritania's Director General of Security, only to be sent to CIA rendition in Jordan for further questioning. Despite being released, the author soon found himself again in the sights of U.S. interrogators. At his niece's wedding, he received a call from Mauritania's Director General of Security, leading to another round of questioning at the police headquarters. 2 weeks later, American investigators arrived and demanded explanations for seemingly coded meanings in various conversations. For instance, they asked about his true intention behind advising his younger brother to focus on school. Their investigation extended beyond alleged coded language as they delved into other areas like the number of computers he owned or phone calls to places like the United Arab Emirates, a country he had never actually contacted. All the while, they kept pressuring for a confession, threatening that the charges against him would only worsen. Even though he was denied water during the interrogation and physically assaulted with a water bottle, the author remained resolute in asserting his innocence. Again released without charges, the author resumed his work in technology and media. However, on November 20, 2001, Mauritania's Director General of Security summoned him once more to return to the police headquarters. The author obliged, expecting a brief session and a prompt return home. Instead, he endured 7 days in Mauritanian custody without any family visits. On November 28, Mauritanian Independence Day, the author was unexpectedly put on a CIA rendition plane and transported to Jordan for additional interrogation. The relentless questioning, reeking of desperation to extract a confession, continued to haunt him. A terrifying experience unveiled. The author's family, unaware of his whereabouts, eventually learned about his detainment in Jordan through a German magazine. On November 29, 2001, the author arrived blindfolded and handcuffed at the infamous house of arrest and interrogation in Amman, a prison known for its torture methods. Subjected to constant beatings and questions trying to connect him to the Millennium Plot, the author's ordeal in Jordan was only the beginning of his terrifying experience. Upon discovering the author's location, his loved ones had no clue about the horrifying conditions he was enduring. The infamous Amman prison had a frightening reputation for employing torture techniques such as sleep deprivation and painful suspensions during beatings. When the author arrived, he was brutally interrogated by Jordanian officials, under the authority of the U.S. government. The author briefly saw his file, indicating the fabricated accusation of him participating in terrorist attacks. The torment was unrelenting. The author overheard others being tortured and was threatened with the same fate if he didn't confess. Despite being pushed, beaten, and bombarded with questions, he never relented. Little did he know that his harrowing ordeal in Jordan was only the beginning of his nightmarish journey. Torturous times at GTMO. After 8 months of confinement in Jordan, the author found himself blindfolded, naked, shackled, and diapered, all under U.S. orders. He was transferred to Guantanamo Bay, GTMO, where he became inmate number 760. Increased abuse of prisoners at GTMO was prevalent due to the implementation of the Special Interrogation Plan, which widened the range of methods interrogators could use. One such inmate, Mohammed al-Qahtani, was horrifically mistreated using tactics similar to what the author would experience. Cut off from authentic communication with his family and fearing for their knowledge of his whereabouts, the author received a forged letter before finally, after 7 months, obtaining a genuine one. This marked the beginning of a new phase of interrogation for the author. Unraveling interrogation horrors. Throughout his ordeal, the author faced accusations from various government agencies claiming his involvement in numerous terrorist attacks. As his list of alleged crimes grew, he was interrogated by different agencies like the FBI, CIA, and military special interrogators in various locations. Despite bearing the burden of numerous accusations, he was never officially charged. The author's experience with escalating torture methods, including violent interrogations and grueling mental and physical abuse, would eventually break him. This harrowing tale exposes the horrifying reality of the unjust treatment suffered by the author. The ruthless reality of torture. The author, after facing months of horrifying abuse and torture, started confessing to all charges, even those unmentioned before. On August 25, 2003, he was abducted by a group of guards, who deceived him into believing he was being taken to an even more brutal interrogation location. However, he was secretly transported to an undisclosed camp within GTMO. The torturous tactics involved isolation, prayer punishment, sexual abuse, and sleep deprivation through the water diet. These methods left the author physically and mentally scarred, with ailments such as back pain, disorientation, and even hallucinations. In an ironic twist, he was treated by a doctor to keep him healthy enough for his torment to continue. Ultimately, the agonizing torture compelled him to confess to false charges in September 2003, which included implicating innocent people, causing him immense grief. Despite confessing to all accusations, even those about attempting to blow up the CN Tower in Toronto, the author's freedom remained elusive. The long road to freedom. The author's living conditions improved after his confession and cooperation, with the onset of a new era of detention in 2004. He gained access to amenities like hot meals, showers, books, movies, and a laptop, but remained uninformed about the outside world. In 2008, following the Boumediene v. Bush Supreme Court ruling, the author's legal team filed a habeas corpus petition, which resulted in a court order for his release in 2010. However, due to an appeal from the Obama administration and the case's remaining pending status, the author is still in prison. Once the author confessed and implicated others, he began to receive better treatment, including hot meals and regular showers. However, in 2004, a shift in detention policy truly altered the author's experience. He was granted the freedom to pray and access to books like the Bible, Star Wars, and The Catcher in the Rye, along with occasional opportunities to watch movies with the guards. He was even given a laptop to type his confession. Despite the improved conditions, the author remained in the dark about the outside world. Little did he know that the International Committee of the Red Cross and journalists were keenly interested in his situation. His interrogators even masqueraded as journalists to extract more information from him. Yearning for real freedom, the author and his legal team fought strenuously against his continued detention. In 2008, the U.S. Supreme Court decided the case of Boumediene v. Bush, granting Guantanamo detainees the right to challenge their imprisonment through a habeas corpus petition. The author seized this opportunity and presented his petition in court in 2009. On March 22, 2010, Judge James Robertson ruled that the U.S. had no legal basis to hold the author and ordered his release. However, the fight was far from over. The Obama administration swiftly appealed the ruling, and on November 5, 2010, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals returned the author's case to the District Court for further consideration. As the case remains unresolved, the author continues to languish behind bars.
The harrowing account of Mohamedou Ould Slahi's detention in Guantanamo Bay is a powerful reminder of the human rights abuses that have taken place in the name of national security. Despite never being charged with a crime, Slahi experienced brutal torture and cruel treatment during his long confinement. After eventually confessing to crimes he did not commit, Slahi tasted some respite as conditions improved. However, he remains imprisoned, battling for his release even after a U.S. court ordered it. This story not only sheds light on the true horrors happening within the walls of Guantanamo Bay but also raises serious questions about the violation of fundamental human rights in the pursuit of perceived security.